started. I know it's kind of a small informal group, which is great because I want to give you a chance to ask questions. We're going to go through the presentation pretty step by step, mostly because we also have several people online that are trying to log in and follow along with us. Again, I'm Matt Thatcher, I'm the principal at the high school, and I'm representing Cascade School District. Obviously, we have superintendents and teachers. Dan Peterson, who obviously is the principal here, couldn't be here tonight, but clearly he's in great support of this bond and knows as well as anybody that certainly Turner is one of the areas where there's desperate need for additional classroom space, among other things. So we just really want to do a couple of things today. First, go ahead and give an overview of kind of where we've been and where we're going, and that's what we're asking for along. We're going to put on the ballot in May. So kind of give you kind of how we got to that. Next, we're going to go kind of just real quickly, school by school, in terms of not every detail, but what the needs are in each school, and kind of how much that would cost. Overview. Next, give you a chance really to ask questions, and that's great for us because other people get to hear the answers, and if we don't know them, we can go back and be better prepared the next time and be able to answer those questions as we get closer to passing this on. And then finally, we want to just have a way for you to be able to participate. We're going to do a political action campaign, which means that's just community members that rally behind this project. And there's multiple other ways in terms of a bond oversight committee, how we spend the funds, if there's any left over, and some things like that. So those, after your questions, a chance to be able to participate is really what we're looking for. And for you to kind of go out and spread the word and kind of share what's going on. So first, in terms of the bond in general, obviously, you may have heard, we put some things out there, but we're going to be looking to pass a $54 million bond for Cascade School District in the May election. And so go to that next slide, and let's just talk about how we even got here. I mean, a lot of us in this room, online, have been around the community for many years. And if you've been around, especially if you're part of this current community, you know the commitment to schools and to our kids. And if we're going to continue to do great things for our kids, we're going to have to eventually do some survey efforts. A lot of you know how schools are funded in the state of Oregon, and that's certainly through taxpayer dollars. And we get money from students on an annual basis to educate, and that's books and fees and teacher salaries and things like that. But what we don't get is any way to do big building projects, expand building schools, or do any major capital improvements. So the way to do that is the bond. And again, one of the things that attracted many people to this community is the great schools. And I've been in the Cascade, came here not on a soul, and I've been here 20 years, and I can tell many stories like that where you have good schools and support for the schools that generates positive things through all the communities, including the city of Turner. So if we're going to continue to do that, and we're going to continue to really provide great education for our kids, when they come back fully, then we live to do that. Even now, we're struggling, right? We're probably more aggressive than most of the districts around us. Even having kids come back in and limited in person, and getting ready to go out and have kids on a hybrid basis, like every other day in the middle of February, and hopefully, ultimately, everybody come back. I mean, we are committed to our kids, and as this community is growing, and we'll talk about that, you'll be able to see the needs we go forward. Go ahead. So let's just talk a little bit about the nitty gritty. First of all, we've been working on, this isn't something that we just woke up and said, hey, we think we probably need about $54 million to get this done. For the last 2 years, I mean, because obviously, if you back up, it's not like you would pick this time to try to put a bond out if you had all the time in the world, right in the middle of a pandemic. But this has actually been a process that's been going on for 2 years with some architectural firms and meetings in each of the communities, with community members, administrators, engineers, architects, families, board members. All were working and researching and doing their due diligence in terms of what the needs are. We also really looked at the growth over the last 3 to 5 years and the next 3 to 5 years in all of our local communities. And really what it comes down to is to be able to do this well, we feel like we'll need about $54 million. And that definitely will be a tax increase to property. Basically, at the tax assessed value, that's going to work out about 92 cents a thousand on top of what we already had, which from other bonds, it's about $1.21. Started out higher, as more people moved into the area and grew, improved and kind of spread the wealth and per tax dollar went down. So we're looking at an additional 92 cents on each 1,000 of tax assessed value for the next 25 years that bond would cost. Now, I just mentioned, wow, what an interesting time to go out for a bond project, right? On the other hand, two things why I'm so excited about this. Even in other communities where the school support is not that high, like in the last November election, and we already out for COVID, and there was a lot of tension. Like I think about 15 out of 18 school bonds passed, even in that climate. And I know most of them do not have the same level of support that our community has for our school. So I still feel like people see down the road. They're not voting for a bond to help kids tomorrow or the next day or the next week. What they're talking about is how do we get this community ready for schools the next year, 3 years, 5 years, and 20 years. That's why we've decided to do that. The other super exciting thing is a $4 million matching grant. Okay, so if we pass this bond in May, we have already been fully approved for an additional $4 million to do other projects that we find throughout the school district. And that's guaranteed. It won't cost anybody, any taxpayer in the district one extra penny. And so if we're able to put that with the additional monies that we have, this seems like, even though it's a tough time, is why we feel like now's the time to do it. So let's talk about what we're going to do. We'll talk about what's happening in each individual school, but just like philosophically, let's talk about why we think this is important. There's going to be some additional projects in each building, but there's some overarching philosophy. The first is health, safety, and security. Clearly, right, we're all focused on is it safe to go back to schools and all that kind of stuff. Well, one of the upgrades in all the buildings will be improved air quality, ventilation, and heating, and air conditioning. That, you remember when the fires, we couldn't even go back to school then. So we're going to equip our schools to be as healthy as possibly can, both for problems we're facing now and problems going forward. But it's just beyond that. Even before COVID and fires, I mean, as you know, the world is in a place, and schools that are being built now or improved upon have safety and security features that we have nothing like that in any of our schools, basically. Ability to lock doors, and ability to have security systems, intercom systems, and emergency systems. We have nothing like that. Our schools were built at a time when really people didn't worry about that. Even here at Turner, kids have to walk from one building to the next. High school, Palmsville, one building to the next. Cloverdale, outside, no gates, no fences. We would try to do some things to get all the security measures, as well as connect the buildings and consolidate and provide walkways where kids can always be in a safe place. That's happening in every building, and it's a big chunk of this bond. That safety and security upgrade is probably the primary motivator, at least initially. Second, right behind that is overcrowding, but that was definitely the primary motivator. And that second one is community growth and passion crowding, which if you're familiar with Turner at all, or you come here before or after school, when Donnie's having to help manage traffic, you know that we've outgrown this facility, both in terms of classrooms and just in terms of overcrowding. And that's true in virtually every building. And we are growing like crazy. We're one of the fastest growing rural districts in the state, and we're protecting the community to do that. If you drove into town in a certain direction, you drive out of town in a certain direction, just think about all the houses going on the lake and apartment buildings just popping up. That's happening in other parts of the community as well as in Palmsville. So the growth is not going to stop. If you know anything about what's going on in this South Marion County and you see in Salem pushing out this way, you know that we're going to just continue to grow. And we're already overcrowded. You can talk to Sheriff Federico or any of us after here, just the makeshift classrooms we've created in high school and junior high, turning closets into classrooms, just trying to find space. And these additional classrooms really help that overcrowding, and we're just frankly out of space. To extend the life of school buildings, and then a similar one is to continue this fiscal stewardship. Just put those two together. Sometimes you have to spend a little money on improvements to actually save money down the road. Lots of buildings are so antiquated and require so many repairs that they're a big drain on the district. So if we do an upfront cost and more efficient systems and not leaking roofs and things like that, we'll be able to improve the life of our older buildings and also really save money in the long run because we're not having to pour so much capital into these antiquated systems that are just failing. So really, even though it's a big ask, for being great stewards of our resources, we've got to move forward in this direction. And another one is this to support the way education is changing for students. And a lot of you guys in here have been involved in this. But, when I first started here 20 years ago, it was all at the high school as an example. Let's all just, 4-year college, liberal arts degree. Now we're kind of circling back to career and technical education and trades and those kind of things. And that really is an area that we need to develop, both at the high school, but also here at Turner. Right now, even as we start to expand our manufacturing and culinary programs and health occupations programs, we need space to do that and equipment to do that. And we partnered with Dan Peterson and the teachers and all in Turner and Palmsville to come and participate and benefit from, even as an elementary kid, that career and technical education, which is the direction that schools are going. And so to continue to expand that and give opportunities even down into the elementary, this is another piece of that puzzle for sure. Okay, so I think what we're going to talk about next is what the bond do. That's, again, I want to make sure I say connected questions, but that's kind of the overarching where we've been, what the plan is philosophically, and what we'll do in each building.
I'm Pete Rathers, I'm the principal at Cascade Junior High, and I've been in the district. This is my 24th year, and so it's just been a fantastic place to be. We're going to show you some of the sparkly things, and obviously you're going to see that the bond would pay for it if it passes. But on a foundational level, all buildings are going to receive some capital upgrades. All I have to talk HVAC systems, security, all of the things that you may not necessarily see with your eyes. But we want to walk through some of the things that we do need. And we are proposing through all those meetings, came up together and talk about these are the things that each school is going to need, and these are the things that we think the bond can pay for. So here at Turner Elementary, the committee came up with a recommendation to add 6 classrooms. And then also to add a bus loop out here behind through the field and background to this gravel parking lot here. Traffic, Mr. Taylor could tell you, I'm sure Chief Taylor could tell you, I'm sure that the quagmire in the mornings, and that would help a ton to be safer for our kids when the buses go through there and drop them off. But certainly, the classroom space is a huge issue. My wife teaches here at Turner, and she's been moved 3 different times from a boiler room to an old classroom, and now she's upstairs in the classroom that used to be a computer lab. So ultimately, they are out of spaces. So the next thing would be to build. Turner would receive an elevator. There's an elevator at the 2nd floor here. To get ADA approved, we would need to make sure the elevator goes in, as well as security. So we're looking at all kinds of elevators there. Okay, any questions about Turner? The blue. The blue would be covered walkways connecting all the buildings. For sure, thank you. That's the old building back here. Miss Federico's classroom is in the back here. That was built in 2006, 2007, 2005.
Did you say something? Okay. Did you say something? Did you have a comment?
Covered or enclosed?
Pardon?
Covered or enclosed?
Is it enclosed? It's enclosed. Yep, I did not know that.
No more questions. So, once the kids are dropped off back in that back parking lot, are they coming back around towards the new classrooms to enter?
I believe they'd be coming through this.
So they're dropped off right here.
Yeah, on the loop itself. On the loop itself.
Okay.
They're in the bus with
Right.
they go back and forth for the bus home.
So the bus will go back, turn around, and come back.
They come through the gate, parking lot, and come back down to where.
Okay. So it's just a one way.
Yeah, one time for the bus.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And they're picked up there as well in the same spot. Okay. That's great.
Families picking up with pickups traditionally in the front somewhere. There'd be some organization system up there, but then the kids riding the bus would be separated from the back. Okay. There was a study, an environmental study done about the floodplain, and evidently the floodplain is not as high as originally thought. It gives us more room to build this bus loop. We thought it came up further, but it's actually back further towards the creek, so it gave us room to reduce parking as well. So.
Is there any funding for replacing the playground renovations?
That's certainly under consideration. You know, when you're going through this process, there were things that didn't quite make the cut. When you're trying to meet all the needs of all the different schools, that is right there on the edge. Some people talk about a potential adding classrooms, maybe 8 classrooms instead of 6. Here, Turner, that's on the just below the red line, the cut line. Those are things that potentially could be done by the extra $4 million Austin grant from the state of Oregon. There will be a budget oversight committee set up for exactly that purpose, to look at when we have additional funds, how do we allocate that? Looking at the needs and things that we originally came up with, said these are important, but they didn't quite make the first cut.
There's a basic plan for basic program.
Okay.
Where they lost the space, they were on the other side of the park.
That is an important part of social emotional learning.
Yes, sir.
I don't see anything in there for either remodeling, upgrading the current older building. Does that involve in this? And my second question is, when you put the elevator in, does that trigger other things that you're going to be required to do in terms of grandmothering or grandfathering and so on and so forth?
I'm not aware of that. It's going to be an external elevator where the fire escape is. So hopefully it's going to minimize impact to the building.
Okay.
And that will assist in that song for sure. Certainly heat security for the old building are things we definitely talked about. The building was just gone through a few years ago with the seismic upgrades.
Yep.
So that's all taken care of. But any other upgrades would be
Electrical upgrades too. On that list, were there any discussions about the cafeteria?
There were discussions
Because we're
about-
at 3
there were
lunches
discussions
now.
about-
Okay, yeah.
There were discussions about the cafeteria. At the moment, it is not expanded. But there are discussions about that space, and this space.
Yeah.
The next 2 spaces we will talk about.
Okay. Other questions about Turner? Let's go to the other schools briefly. Palmsville Elementary, it's our largest elementary school, just under 600 kids currently, and they currently have a 3-5 building and a K-1-2 building. This building here is the K-1-2, the 3-5 is here. Under the proposal of the bond, they would demolish the 3-5 building. There's been tons of issues with that building, ultimately for the last several decades. Roofing, water issues, efficiency issues. Every architect can bring in there, Mr. Joe tells me that they just think, I don't know how to begin. We've spent $50,000 on the roofing the last 2 years, and we know we're going to have to spend more. For structure, it was meant to be one of those old California style schools that had outdoor hallways. When you opened up the door, you were outside, and there were brick walkways or concrete. And Oregon system worked, so we covered that. But the roofing doesn't work. The buildings aren't strong enough to support a massive roof. You have to spend millions of dollars to make it work. So the architect's DLR suggested, let's demolish that, let's make it better. A bus loop system for kids. We'll add on classrooms to the additional K-1-2 building. Those are the orange pods up there. There's 5 on that wing, 5 on that wing. We would add a gym right now where the current bus loop goes. And that would connect to the CDC. The CDC would become part of the Palmsville Elementary building all in one. So security has increased tremendously because now kids don't have to go outside at all. One of the major problems with currently the Palmsville setup is that kids have to go outside back and forth to the cafeteria and to the large gym. Because if they're in the 3-5 building, the cafeteria is right here. They have to go outside. So that's one of the issues. We remodeled the current CDC building, which was originally designed for a teen parent program and preschool and other programs. Those programs have not taken off, and so repurposing that building, using it for classroom space, and it would right now currently be our kindergarten wing for Palmsville.
How many kindergarten classes is that? 4, 5?
The CDC,
Yeah,
5 to 7, depending on.
yeah, a lot.
it's a good sized building,
Yeah.
for sure.
And it's newer, it's like 2007, 2006, right?
It was before the last one.
I think we got it.
Are you guys eliminating the preschool program or recycling it?
We've not had one for the last.
There's Head Start.
Head Start.
There's Bible to getting interventions, early interventions.
But they are looking, they have that.
Underground.
These classrooms will be extensions on the current wings that are there. They have these open, common spaces. They will simply extend those spaces and have those 5 classrooms there. When they built that zone back at the hospital, so these are ready to go to add on to those 2 wings. Palmsville is a growing community just like Turner. I was talking to the mayor yesterday of Palmsville, and they are annexing 23 acres for a park. Out beyond there, they're going to be looking to annex and pull more land in the city to build more homes. So, okay. That's Palmsville. Cloverdale. The major issue here, if you've been to Cloverdale, you know that kids basically walk out of school and almost on stairs down. There's a small parking lot there, but one of the huge issues is the need for security there. It's a really funky built building. There's all these modulars. The bond proposal would be to remove the back 2 modulars. They're old, antiquated, they need to go. And we would add a 6 classroom structure. And then you'd be enclosing walkways there as well. Okay, let's go to any questions. The junior high, where I work, Cascade Junior High, the proposal is we are busting at the seams. We have every space available to be used. We have literally taken closets and turned them into offices. We busted out a storage room and increased the classroom size. The next teacher I add won't have a classroom, if I need to add one. So the proposal is to add a 4 classroom pod out the back, and then also a secondary multi-purpose space to be used as a PE/gym area, and also potentially a cafeteria. Junior high students have to walk to the high school currently for cafeteria. We could use that as a place to feed kids. It'd probably be some kind of a multi-purpose floor. It would probably not be wood. We're not going to put food and those kind of things on there. But we need an extra PE space. It'd be a great gym for our B sports. It'd be a fantastic gym for CYB and the volleyball program I got going. You have 2 spaces there. The high school has been gracious to offer us the use of their old gym for PE when we need it, but there's many times that we can't use it because they're using it. So then you're stuck to using the upstairs, downstairs gym. When you try to put 40 kids upstairs, it doesn't work very well. So those are good additions. The 4 classes do a nice job. When I started at Cascade Junior High 10 years ago, we had 525. Last year we had 630. And all the growth was in the last 4 or 5 years. We stayed pretty static, probably the 550, but the last 5 years it was just growing. We grew almost 100 kids. So we're down to 600 right now, but I know that as soon as we open our doors, normally we'll get 630 in a heartbeat, and probably more. So.
You know the floor size of that new gym? It's 84 feet.
Yes, it's basically, we talked about having 4 to 5 set rows of bleachers on one side and a full size high school style.
8 feet, okay, that'd be great.
So one thing I noticed right now, on the right, to the left hand side of the school, you come around, you're parallel to the gym. So blind spot, and I know, I just crawled there because I know I've got good stuff from you. So this, we still have a blind spot. Something to consider is to just have a fence or something there for a little distance, so if someone is driving, you could see the student, and then there's a barrier there that everybody can kind of stop and check.
For years, I've been worried about people racing on the backside of the junior high, whipping around corners. I believe this could turn into a fire lane, and so traffic would not even go back there anymore. It would just be for maintenance. Maybe we let staff pull around in the morning and park there. That's being determined, but it would not be a public throughway anymore. But ultimately, I believe we talked about that being a fire lane in the back, not a public throughway. That would help a ton, because I have worked exactly about the same thing. High school, Mr. Dash, you want to finish up with that?
Sure. So the high school would get 4 additional classrooms, and that would be some, even the last time that we did kind of this bond planning in 2005, we decided we needed 4 additional science classrooms, and those did not get done. So this thing, in terms of the growth and the technology, how much more desperately we need them. So those 4 classrooms would be science labs. We have a thriving health occupation science program, chemistry, physics, and all that kind of stuff. That would be those 4 science labs would be built there. Those 4 blue rooms would be repurposed for regular classrooms, which won't be hard because they are just regular classrooms that we modify for science. So what we would do is move regular classrooms that are out of the vocational area into there, like Spanish, for example, special ed, and truly redevelop this area for that CTE and college and career kind of folks that I just talked about. So the high school is getting a little bit less, besides all the safety and security upgrades for sure, but we got a significant chunk over here in the 2005 box. So we're getting those 4 additional classrooms and then repurposing some additional spaces, safety, security. Just think about the overall, if you were, considering your own property, taking care of your own house, it's like we've only done this a few times. Before that, it was 2005 when we had some, again, desperately needed upgrade for the growth. And then before that, it was like 1968. And so as Turner and Palmsville and the surrounding community grows, we've been very thoughtful about what can we do to get at least most of the needs met of the community, but also take into account that this is definitely a burden on taxpayers, and it's a raising taxes. We've got to try to keep it around that 92 cents. But it's certainly something that's been a long time coming. Again, only 3 times since 1968. So next one. The Cascade Opportunity Center, and this is the old West State Elementary, if you're familiar with that. And again, mostly it houses some of our alternative education, our online education, and some of our special needs programs. And so what we would need to do there mostly is put an elevator again for the ADA compliance, but also all those safety and security upgrades we talked about and some critical capital repairs. No real additional classroom spaces needed in that one right there. So.
Is it located on the junior high school campus or somewhere else?
No, this is on West State Road. It's probably like 3 miles away from the high school, roughly. So,
Okay.
yeah.
West State. Okay.
Next one. So again, what we're going to talk about is how you can be involved. And we'll go over that in just a second. I mentioned a few ways, political action committee, So, a couple things. If you have specific individual questions as a small group, you can probably find one of us. I want you to do that. I want to respect your time. Please do. What I would say, if you're interested in following up in terms of helping in any of those capacities that we talked about, talk to Madeline, and she'll give you her card. She'll take your information, because we definitely, especially in Turner, this is going to be a big deal for the school and for the community. And so if you're able to help out or have additional questions, please check in with her. So I want to make sure and thank everybody for their time, and please, you'll be seeing me out, and you'll be hearing more from us as we move forward. So thanks again.